Hey everyone, this is Mike, and today I'll be taking a break from all the job videos and be taking a look at some things that Destiny 2 does that Final Fantasy XIV could learn from. I've played both games a lot, and while they are very different, there are also a lot of similarities. So I'm not going to be looking at those differences, but more at what is similar between the two and how 14 could implement some of the things that are present in Destiny 2. So let's begin with raiding, seeing how that is my favorite thing to do in 14. The actual raid itself in both games is fairly similar. In 14 we have 4 encounters, all with their own instance. In Destiny 2 we also have 4 main encounters, but they are all present in one big raid layer, kinda like how we have the 24-man raids in Final Fantasy. Clear the encounter, get your loot, simple as that. Now in 14, that is where it ends. You have the fight, and once you clear that fight, you will be able to use the same strategies every single time to do re-clears. And the only time where you would actually change anything is when you would try new strats to optimize DPS or maybe an easier strat for a specific mechanic. But outside of that, your interaction with the fight itself won't really change. And the only thing you get from Savage is also that gear. In Destiny, that isn't really the case. After a raid has been out for a few weeks, they add in a challenge mode for each of the different encounters, granting you bonus loot when you complete the challenge. If you were to fail the challenge, then you still get your normal loot, of course. And this challenge will also rotate through the different encounters each week. Each raid also has their own seal, which when you complete that will give you a specific title. And to complete the seal, you just need to do a bunch of challenges. So we not only have the rotating weekly challenge that grants you bonus loot on one of the encounters each week, but there are also challenges that you would need to complete once if you want to grab yourself that title. Now, some of these challenges are pretty easy and barely make you change the way you handle an encounter. Some of them are also very Destiny 2 specific that you would not be able to translate into 14, but some of these challenges will also require a completely new approach in how you handle the fight. And it's these things that breathe new life into the raids. And the best thing is that it is completely optional. Do you want the title? Then by all means go for it. If you're not interested in that, then you can just go chill and go about your business as always. In 14, we had it happen before that we had the FFXIV challenges during Deltascape in Stormblood. Those are the ones that I remember the most, at least. These were of course community challenges, but it did go to show that there were a fair amount of people that were interested in doing something like this. For speaking about rewards, just an extra upgrade item for your tombstones or an extra accessories from like the first fight or whatever really would probably be enough for people to want to try it. Maybe not every single week, but maybe just on the one time to have completed the challenge to just say that you've done it, and then a title would surely make people want to try it, looking at how many people do ultimate, and that is pretty much just for a title and a shiny weapon that will become glam soon after, and then of course also to have completed the challenge of clearing an ultimate. So this is definitely something that I think that a portion of the player base would be interested in. A second thing that I really enjoy about Destiny is the dungeons. Now, a dungeon in Destiny is very different from a dungeon in 14. I think the best way to describe it is as a mini raid. You only need half the people, which you can actually solo these dungeons if you want to do so. I've always enjoyed doing that. There's actually 2 videos of me soloing 2 of the dungeons on my channel if you're interested in that. But for a dungeon in Destiny, you only need a maximum of 3 people, which is half the size of what you need of a normal raid team, which is 6. And each encounter in a dungeon has their own mechanics and bosses that you will be fighting. So it feels like a raid, you just need less people for it. And that is something that I feel like we are lacking in 14. Light party difficult content. The only 2 examples that come to mind are Deep Dungeon and Rathalos Extreme. Rathalos I feel is the best example of something that I would want, because Deep Dungeon, while it does have some mechanics, it isn't super interesting to me. Once you get to the higher floors, you just need to be careful of what mobs you will be fighting and then hope RNG doesn't screw you over with traps and debuffs on the floor and stuff like that. But outside of that, it's not super engaging, and it's also pretty similar for the whole Deep Dungeon itself. So I guess this is where I would like to say to look at mythic dungeons in World of Warcraft. Now, I've never played WoW myself, or well, I never lasted long enough to get to mythic dungeons, but from what I've heard people talking about, that is basically what I would want. Harder dungeons with mechanics that are meant for a light party. Raiding with 8 people is fun, but I enjoy my time playing games the most when I can play with a smaller group of people, as I just enjoy that experience more. And right now there isn't really much challenging content in 14 that would allow me to do it with a small group of people, so I would really like something to scratch that itch. Last but not least, and this is kind of like a minor point, we have the events. to me, I don't know for how long I felt this way, but events in 14 have for the most part been pretty boring and non-interactive. Just look at the last event that we got, the Moonfire Fair. You have a short quest line, you do one fate and you're done in 10 minutes. Make it 2 minutes if you're skipping cutscenes. It's not super interactive and the rewards you get are usually some glamour, a minion or a mount, and often some housing related items, but most of the time I'm not super excited about the rewards, although some of the mounts and the glams that we've got I've been a very big fan of. Now, in Destiny 2, events are generally way more interactive. They're not just a one and done kind of deal that only takes you 10 or 15 minutes to complete. Maybe it's because we don't have as many events in Destiny as we do in 14, but they are a lot more involved most of the time, and the rewards you can obtain are usually a lot more interesting as well. Now, I'm not saying that they need to start giving us endgame gear through events in 14, because of the way the loot structure works in Destiny, they can do that. We can't really do that here in 14, but some good looking glam would be enough incentive for most people, and maybe even adding some catch-up gear for the people that decided to take a break from the game for a little while so that they don't have to grind tomestones to be able to continue with the story, because that's something that I noticed now that a friend of mine who is a new player made it to endgame. He gets wall by item level a lot for the new dungeons, so having this catch-up gear in an event, for example, would be really nice. Of course, don't put them at the same level as, for example, the latest tombstone gear, but put it at the same level as like the latest dungeon that came out or something, so that those people can just make it through the story without needing to take a break to grind out gear in order to be able to progress. So I guess that's where I'll end today's video. The events I'm not super fussed about, but the raid challenges and harder light party content are two things that I would really like to see, as those are things that would not only give more replay value to the raids, but it would also give players that want to enjoy hard content with a smaller group of people something to do. Anyways, let me know what you think about this down below and if you have something to add to that. But for now, I want to thank you for watching, I want to thank my Patreons for their support, and I'll see you in the next one.